Hello, hello. Happy Taco Tuesday. So happy that you are all here today. I'm happy to be back. If you missed any of, I guess, kind of like behind the scenes, I didn't really make a big announcement all over social media or anything like that, but I had COVID for what seemed like forever. It was about a 2 week process from the time like symptoms really started, and you can kind of like hear it still. I don't have 100% of everything is back to normal for me, but I do feel holy moly, night and day difference than whenever I was really sick. But I'm so happy to be back. That's why I wasn't here last week. And I have lots of things to share, lots of updates. But the first thing that I really wanted to talk about is I wanted to share a little behind the scenes because I I think that a lot of podcasters and people in the online space look at my content, they see all the things that I'm doing, and maybe you have the impression that things are really fancy behind the scenes or things are like super organized, like overly organized. And I just wanted to reassure you that's not, that it's not at all like that. I am looking at, if you've been around here, you know this. I plan my content about a quarter of the year at a time. So I will plan about 3 months. And now we're getting to the end of quarter three. And so I sit down, I look at the content that we've previously created. And over the last few quarters of the year, the last quarter of the year is always kind of funky, right? Because you're looking at the whole year and not just like the last quarter, if that makes sense. I mean, I will look at what happened in the last quarter, but typically for the last quarter of the year, I will look at all of my content over the last 6 to 9 months to see what has performed the best, what do we have coming up, and what do I want my content to look like in the future. So I did some planning the other day. Y'all, when I tell y'all I plan and I do things in my notebooks, I'm not kidding. Like I have 3 notebooks on my desk right now. One of them is the old one that's like it's for something else. But like whenever I start getting ideas and I start feeling this like urge to create a bunch of content or start thinking about content in a new way, y'all, it's a handy dandy notebook. All this is keywords. You can see it says content planning. I looked up a whole bunch of keywords. Now, I will tell you, most of this is in a spreadsheet that I have this keyword tool that I use. It's called Keywords Everywhere. I've used it, I guess, for 3 years now, 2.5, 3 years. I love it. It's really easy to use. But I started looking at the search results that I get for my Google Analytics as well as YouTube. And what I will do is I will take that information and kind of distill it down to what do people like, what are they already searching for? And then what do I actually want to talk about? Because this is, I think, where some of the it's not fun anymore can come into play is when people get so heavily focused on keyword research or what are people looking for in Google Trends. And, you go so far into the weeds of what are people looking for? What can I create that will go viral? This is what a lot of people do, especially in the YouTube space. And where you miss out is you don't combine your actual passion and what you find fun about your content, and you have to marry that with what people are searching for. You really can't have one without the other. And what I mean by that is I can't just tell you all the things that I want to talk about. I actually have to go deeper and find out what does my audience want to hear, right? Like this is a combination of looking at my podcast stats, my YouTube stats, what emails are people opening, which reels or TikToks or anything like that are getting more traction than other ones, and what do I really want to talk about. So I wanted to just have this as a reminder today that you have to have both. You can't just have the things that you want to create something and you hope that it goes viral. Like, that's not a great strategy. It could happen, but it's not really a system and a process that you can duplicate very easily on your own. But I think it's also, people get trapped and frustrated when they just talk about the things that they're passionate about and no one else cares about it. Oh, that feels really tough to say. Like, I feel like I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings saying that, but it's true. Some of y'all talk about content that no one else cares about. You have a really big passion for it, but your audience maybe isn't even there. Like, maybe your audience isn't even paying attention because they're like, I don't care about that thing that you're talking about. I think you're the one that's really passionate about it. So this is just a reminder. Yes, keywords are important. Yes, SEO is important, but it's not the only thing. And your passion is important and you have to enjoy what you're creating, but that's also not the only thing. You got to have both of those together. So, and in going along with that theme, I want to talk about what today's podcast episode is about, because we are talking about how to measure your podcast success on social media, or like just how to measure your podcast results on social media. And I actually brought up, let me pull this up. Y'all, there's way too much blue. I feel like I need, or it's teal, I mean, whatever color it is. But here is the web address. I'm going to go full screen for a second. Where you can see, like, this is episode 291, how to measure podcast social media results. So I'm going to take this off for a second so you can see it. But today's episode, well, first of all, we're almost at 300 podcast episodes for the Profit Podcast. And that blows my mind. If you haven't had a chance to listen, this is my show. This is the Profit Podcast. You can go check it out there wherever you listen to episodes. My favorite player is on Good Pods. This is what I listen to all of my podcasts. So if you're ever like, what is Crystal listening to today? Or what has she listened to in the last week? You can go follow me on Good Pods and literally see everything that I've listened to. Let me see. There was a really good episode about, let me go full screen real fast because there was a really awesome episode. I don't always listen to the podcast How I Built This, but I will every once in a while when it's a really good company that I love or a brand that I'm obsessed with. And I listened to one yesterday that was interviewing two of the guys from Dude Perfect. If you have children between the ages of like 4 and 15, there's a good chance you've heard the word Dude Perfect, or the phrase, the company, the brand Dude Perfect. And they were interviewing them on How I Built This. And it was so fascinating, so interesting. But these guys are YouTubers that started like the trick shots. I was going to say that the trick shot trend. That's really hard to say. But it was so awesome to hear all about Dude Perfect and how it was formed and just all the things. So go to Good Pods. So GOODPODS, Good Pods, like good reads. And that's where I listen to my podcast episodes. And you can literally see, it's kind of like following along on social media to see what I'm listening to, but I don't have to announce it every time. Every time I'm listening to an episode, I can just say, hey, you know, this is what I'm listening to on Good Pods. So, okay, so let me go back. Hang on. I'm clicking around, doing all the things. So we're almost at 300 podcast episodes. This is episode 291. Let me pull this back up. How to measure podcast social media results. And I'm trying to think of what we should do for episode 300. I feel like we should do another giveaway. We should do something fun. I don't know. I haven't decided what we're going to do for episode 300, but it's 9 episodes away. The clock is ticking. What are you going to do, Crystal? You need to do some sort of giveaway. So I will be thinking about that. If you have any ideas, comments, questions about that, like tell us in the comments. And then another thing that is happening today is Digital Course Academy with Amy Porterfield is officially open today, but if you have not watched one of Amy's master classes, her first one is in less than an hour. I'm really excited. I always love watching her master classes. And it's just going to be so much fun. So I actually, look, we have like a double feature here. This is the AP plus KP bonus bundle. And if you want to learn more about it, you can see on the screen. Go to crystalprofit.com/DCA 2021, where you can learn more about Digital Course Academy, if it's for you. And if you ever thought about creating a digital course, then it might be perfect for you. Or you're like, no, I don't want to monetize my podcast that way. Then that's fine too. But if you do, you definitely need to go check out Digital Course Academy. It's what I use to create my courses, and it's a phenomenal program. But anyway, so we're going into how to measure your results, right? And what I talked about in today's episode is really throwing down a challenge. So I showed y'all, this is like my content planning that I was doing. And I'm actually working on reworking a lot of my content. This is something that is pretty important simply because I think a lot of podcasters, when you get started, you think, okay, I just need to keep going on this path and I don't need to change anything. This is a mistake, okay? This is a very big mistake because, like we were talking about earlier, not all content strategies can be duplicated. Here is a prime example. The number one podcast episode that has been downloaded on the Profit Podcast is all about the case study that I did on the Office Ladies podcast. So this launched in October 2019. I can't believe it's almost been 2 years they've been doing that. Like that sounds so crazy to me because it feels like it was yesterday that they launched the podcast. But I did this case study leading up to them launching it, what it looked like, what I learned from it, and so many things. And this is still the most downloaded podcast episode that I have on the show. And like above the introduction, the trailer episode, like episode 1, like this is the most downloaded podcast on my show. But I look at it and I ask, okay, what is this telling me? That information tells me that, one, I think that y'all really like the case study, the behind the scenes, like me breaking everything down step by step of what it means to launch a podcast, what it means to have a lot of momentum behind your podcast and what that can look like. But I think it also, I shared a lot of my geekiness and my personality in this episode because I'm such a fan of The Office. And I just genuinely nerded out, geeked out, was fangirling over them launching this podcast. So that's just kind of in a nutshell why I think that this episode is so successful. But let's go back to today's episode and talking about measuring your social media results, because I threw down a challenge in today's episode, and it's all about the next 30 days. So if you are typically someone who just publishes an episode and you don't really measure like how it's performing, you're just like, oh, I put out a new episode, I just got to put out another one. And you're like on this content creation hamster wheel, putting things out without measuring things. This episode will give you your marching orders for the next 30 days, because what I want you to do is I want you to go back and retroactively look at the last 30 days of your podcast and ask, okay, was I promoting on social media? Was I emailing my list? Was I talking about my show anywhere else? Or was I just hitting publish and walking away and saying, I hope people listen to this, and, that's really it? If that was you, then I want you to do something different over the next 30 days. And I've heard this term before, but I was listening to a Gary Vaynerchuk podcast. Gary V, if y'all know who he is, he's like the king of content, right? I was listening to one of his podcast episodes today, and one of the messages over and over again is what got you here won't get you there. I don't know who is the person. Like, the people weren't claiming that this was their quote or anything. They're like, this is a famous quote. I don't know who said it. I'm going to tell you that right now. But what got you here won't get you there is the same thing when you look at your podcast social media. So you can't just expect that the same thing you've been doing or lack thereof, right? If you haven't been posting on social media and you're like, my social isn't growing for my podcast, or I'm not getting any new followers, or I'm not really getting a lot of engagement on Instagram. If you were to come to me and say that, I would say, well, when was the last time you posted about your podcast? When was the last time you put a graphic up that said, here's how to listen to my show, here's where you can find it? Or when was the last time you put a clip from your podcast on your social media? If you told me, well, I've never done that, well, then we got some lessons to do. Like, we got some homework, okay? Your assignment over the next 30 days is to figure out a social media strategy that's going to work for you. Now, I told y'all straight up in this episode, I am not a social media expert. Nope, not at all. Not at all. I don't have tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, YouTube, like any of the places. I don't have thousands and thousands of followers, but I can tell you that there's a direct correlation between whenever I post things and get interaction on my Instagram, on my Facebook, or talk about it somewhere else, and getting more listeners to my podcast. Like, it is that trigger. It's that reminder to people, like, oh, there's a brand new episode of the Profit Podcast. I should go listen to it. Or there's a new interview. I should go listen to this new interview. Actually, I did one with Amy Porterfield. It aired last Thursday. And it was like a bucket list, vision board, like all the things, right? It was just such a cool interview for me to be able to like have the tables turned on my mentor, someone who's coached me, to get to ask her all these fun questions that I've always wondered. And I know that y'all were wondering. So you got to go check out that episode. But it was so fun to do that. And then whenever I posted about it, it was that visual indication to someone who's been following me. Oh, there's a brand new podcast episode. I should go listen to that. Now, if I wasn't posting on social, if I didn't share that, then the only people that would know about that interview are people that are subscribed to my show. And I talk about subscribes and follows and all that in today's episode. But I think that it's important that you understand that it's not just enough to just put out a new piece of content. You have to talk about it. Like, this is marketing 101, and it's the thing that I get the most pushback from people, because they say, well, I just published a new episode. What more do you want from me? This is like, they're just whining and complaining. Like, what else do you want? I did the thing. You told me to put out a new episode every week. I did that. But my question is, when was the last time you talked about your podcast on social media? And this could look like a million different things. And I actually, y'all, sorry, I still have this lingering cough. And I'm hoping it goes away soon. But if you go to crystalprofit.com/episode 291, you're going to see all of the social media strategies, interviews, resources that I have shared on the podcast and on my YouTube channel that I want you to go check out. These are great interviews. These are great interviews. These are great people that I've talked to. And actually, I just thought of another one that I need to add on there that I don't see that I put on there. But I want you to go check these out. Look, there's videos here that you can go watch about posting your podcast information, like using social media. Y'all, it's free. It's free. I'm not talking about running ads on Facebook, running ads on Instagram, running ads anywhere. I'm talking about just posting on social media. It is free to do that. And I don't care if it's just you grabbing your phone and saying, hey, there's a brand new podcast episode out today. You should go listen to it. It's going to add value to your life by insert whatever thing. Yeah, so go listen to it. It's really that simple. It's that simple. And people are like, they give me pushback. Like, no, you got to have a strategy. You got to have graphics. It has to be like so pretty. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And if you want to do that same thing that I just did and use it as a reel on Instagram, it will probably get more traction than anything else you do on there, because reels are getting more of the share of the algorithm or whatever you want to call it. So I want you to go do it today. I want you, like I told you in the podcast episode, that I put up a challenge for the next 30 days. But today, because you're sitting here watching this, whether you're live or on the replay, I want you to go create a piece of content and post it on whatever social media you use and talk about your podcast. Whether it's telling them about your latest episode, whether it's you talking about planning content for the next quarter of the year, or you're talking about an upcoming guest that you're excited about, or you're talking, whatever it is you're talking about. I want you to create a piece of content today and post it on social media and then tag me in it. Say, here, Crystal, like, I did my assignment for the day. I did my thing. I did my task. I did my to-do list item for the day. I want you talking about your podcast on social media. And like I said, this could be a reel, this could be a graphic, this could be a selfie of you just like, hey, put on your headphones. I was going to grab my headphones, but they're like, there's too many things that would have to happen. Take a picture of you and your microphone. Say, oh, I'm recording a new episode of my podcast. There's so many different things that you can do on social media to promote your show. But I think that it's really, really important for you to talk about your podcast. So Monique says, what's a reel? So great question. On Instagram, okay, this is on Instagram specifically. This is what they're calling them. These are just like TikToks on Instagram. Let's just call a spade, right? Like that's what it is. It is a feature that you have they could be anywhere from 15 to 60-second clips that you want to share on Instagram. And you can literally just take your phone and record, say, hey, there's a new episode of my podcast. Go listen on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast player. This is what it's about. And then you could just quickly say, something very quick, very simple. But I think that the point of doing this is really, okay, listen, everybody, like, listen to me here. The point of it is to get comfortable talking about your show. Even if you haven't launched, y'all, I'm talking to the people that are just in the idea stages, that have not even launched their show. They're like, I don't have anywhere to send people because my show's not out there. This is totally fine. Tell people, hey, okay, this is a great example. Even if I was just writing in a notebook, I could record and say, hey, I'm planning my ideas for my podcast. Here are my ideas for my podcast. This is what I'm going to talk about whenever I launch my show on whatever the day I'm going to launch my show. And I can't wait to share it with you. Okay, that's all I have to share. Bye. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Come back again and see us next time. I know this sounds so silly, but it's really what it takes to just feel comfortable. Whether it's on camera, you could just do a voiceover, right? You don't even have to show your face. I could just take a picture or video of this, have my notebook and say, oh, look, these are the next podcast episodes that I'm going to create. I'm just doing my content planning. It is not rocket science to put out content about your podcast, but you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to get started somewhere. You'll know this is the motto around here is keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. And the reason why you have to start somewhere is because that's how you feel more comfortable. That is how you get out of this comfort zone of like, oh, I don't know. I typically just post graphics. I never post my face. I never post my voice. Let's get out of that. Let's step out of our comfort zone and get more comfortable experimenting, get more comfortable trying new things on social media. And like I said, if you listen to today's podcast episode, you heard the challenge. Like over the next 30 days, I'm doing different things. Y'all, I'm doing TikToks. I never thought I'd be on TikTok. I was on it for like a very short period of time. You can see this big gap. There's a big gap if you go follow me on TikTok, where it was like all this content in 2020 and then just like a hard stop. And I haven't done anything since like last summer. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure out how this is gonna work for me. And I just started posting random things. I still don't have like a full strategy. I don't have everything written out, but I have a plan to get out of my comfort zone. That is my plan, right? What is your strategy? It's to get out of my comfort zone and to shake things up. And like I was talking about, I said this quote earlier, what got you here won't get you there. And I don't know about y'all, but I aspire to have a podcast that is listened to by thousands of people who want to launch their show. I'm not there yet, right? I have hundreds of listeners. I don't have thousands of listeners. And I do aspire for that one day. Like that goal is in the back of my mind. But if I'm sitting here in my comfort zone saying, I don't know that I want to post on TikTok. I don't know that I want to try that out. Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking the same strategies that got me here. They're not going to get me there. They're not going to get me to my bigger goals that I have. So I wanted to pass that along here with you today. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yes, that's what reels are. And then Monique says, I agree 100%. My videos get so much more traction. They do, because people really connect with other people. I mean, I know that graphics are easier. I can make graphics all day looking like a hot mess with my hair all crazy, no makeup on. But I got out of my comfort zone and I told myself, I'm not going to wait until I look all done up and my hair's done, my makeup's done and everything before I put out new pieces of video content. And sometimes I'll look at videos and say, ooh, maybe I should have put on something, but I just keep going. I just keep going and I just keep saying, you know what? I'll get better at this. And I can't be like, most of us are our worst judges, right? We're so hard on ourselves. And I am the first one to tell you that I still have to check myself whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling doubtful about what I'm doing. It's usually because of comparison. It is. It's me saying, well, my business isn't as big as so-and-so's, or my YouTube following isn't as big as this person, or I wish that I had this many people on my email list. Like, I do this too. I do this too, y'all. This is why I'm coming here telling you these things, to let you know if these are your thoughts, you're not the only one. You are not the only one. I actually, I'm a journaler. So not only do I write in like these notebooks, I have, it's so funny. I wish I could tell you how many notebooks I have in this house. But I journal. So it's not in this, it's actually in a little bit fancier notebook. It's not super fancy, but it's a little bit fancier than these notebooks that I wrote about patience this morning. And I had to write about patience. I've been feeling this like impatient pull for me to like, oh, I should be doing this. And why am I not doing that? And I should already be at this stage. Like, there's so many things that evolve around me being impatient in my journey. And I think that it's something that I'm going to share about in my content actually later this week, early next week. We're going to have an episode about it. But I think that it's important to be self-aware of when you're in your comfort zone and when you're trying to break out, like what's holding you back? What's holding you back? Is it fear? For me, it's usually comparison. It's not so much fear of looking a certain way or not looking like I know what I'm doing. Y'all, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. Let's just be really honest, okay? I will put stuff out that has a general strategy, but I'm not like 100% sure that what I'm trying, what I'm experimenting with is going to work, right? I'm like 80-90% sure. I'm like, I think that this is going to work. Whether or not it meets those expectations, I can't tell you until after the fact. So I think that it's really important that we have these self-awareness check-ins from time to time of What are you feeling about your business, about your content, about your podcast? For me, it was impatience. So just to be really, really honest, I was feeling very impatient, but then like I wrote about it and I got these ideas out of my head and I'm like, okay, I know what it is. It's the fact that I'm in this little comfort bubble and I'm frustrated that I'm not growing. Well, I'm not doing anything to break out of the shell of comfortability, and I need to step out of that. So, if you're interested in stepping out of your little comfort bubble, your comfort zone, then I encourage you to try something new over the next 30 days with your social media. I want you to talk about your podcast. I want you to tag me in it. Say my podcast coach told me that I needed to start talking about my podcast more on social media. This is me doing it. I will happily share it. If you want to get more visibility, more eyes on your podcast, then tag me in it and I'm going to share it. Okay? Like there's check on that box, like get in front of more people. That is the way to do it. So I hope that you found this encouraging today. I really hope that you go check out today's podcast episode. I told you earlier that Digital Course Academy with Amy Porterfield is officially open. I'm a proud partner and affiliate, and I want you to go check it out. Go to crystalprofit.com/DCA 2021. But I have to go get ready actually because Amy is doing 3 master classes in the next 2 days for sure that I'm going to all of them. I know I get a little I get a little crazy watching all her master classes, but she has a master class called 5 Little Known Mistakes Most Course Creators Make and What to Do Instead. I'm about to go hop on that. So if you want to join us and you want to see if you're like, who's Amy Porterfield? What are you talking about? Why are we talking about digital courses? It is one of the ways that I have been able to make thousands of dollars with my podcast. I've been able to monetize my show using my digital courses. And so I love endorsing this program and all the things that Amy does. And you can come watch her live, like see what it's like to learn from her, what her trainings look like by going to crystalprofit.com/Amy Masterclass and come join us. I know that she still has a few spots available for the masterclasses today and tomorrow. And I would love to see you there. Come say hi, like shout out in the chat. I'm going to be in the chat talking. But that's all I have for y'all today. So I hope that everybody has a fantastic Taco Tuesday. And I will see you next time. Remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Bye, y'all.